Hi everyone, I'm Jodi. Welcome to my channel, and more importantly, welcome to today's Friday Face Off, where we are going to test in real life, under real life scenarios, two very highly loved and highly rated loose powders to set the under eye area. The questions that I get more often than not is, how do I keep this under eye area from looking cakey, from having my concealer settle into fine lines and wrinkles, and my concealer to set throughout the day? Well, it takes a setting powder, and there are a lot of setting powders out on the market, but today we are going to test the highly loved Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder up against the RCMA powder that is top rated by makeup artists. So which one is best for our more mature eyes? But before we review these under a series of tests, let's get into the specifics. The Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder sells for $33. It comes in two shades, which is more of this white translucent and a medium to deep shade. That shade, however, looks to be sold out in a variety of locations that I looked again today. This has 4.5 stars with over 2,500 reviews and says that it sets and prolongs the wear of concealer, camouflage, and other under eye products and instantly brightens the look of the under eye area. We shall see. The RCMA comes in this one shade, and it is available on the RCMA website for $14. I saw it on Amazon today for about $18.50, so just know you can get it on their actual website for about a $4 savings. It also says to brighten the under eye area while setting your concealer. It has 4.6 stars with over 3,000 reviews and was voted one of the best essentials for makeup artists in 2017. This has been around for a long time. A lot of people love it. I love it. I like how much comes in it, but more importantly, I like how it works. The reason I decided to take these two up against one another is because this is a price point that's much more comfortable for powder, and the amount, I mean, you could get this and split up with 2 or 3 family members. Just buy those little round travel things that you can get at the drugstore now, and because that's a lot of powder. And you don't want to use either of these anywhere but on your eyes. So that will last you a long time. So I like this one a little bit better out of the gate. It's also cruelty-free, and the ingredient list has 2 ingredients, where this one's a little bit longer. So we're gonna get into exactly how these wear. I'm gonna take you guys with me throughout the day to see how they wear on top of concealer. And at the end of the day, we'll take a close-up look to see which one might be right for you. If you like these Friday face-offs, please leave me a thumbs up and a comment in the comment section so I know these are videos that you guys like to see, and I will continue to do them. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. And you can subscribe to as many channels as you want. It doesn't mean that you, by subscribing here, it takes away from subscribing to one of your other favorite YouTubers. So thank you for that. So if you're ready, we're gonna start with the application process and go throughout the day. All right, the first thing that I wanted to do is add a little bit of serum underneath my eyes, which helps to plump and moisturize and really hydrate your under eye area. So it's important that you add a little bit of serum or an eye cream that's not too emollient though. The more emollient it is, especially for those of you with oily skin, then you'll start to get sort of some slippage with your concealer and then with powder. So you want just a nice light serum that's not too thick, but just enough to hydrate, and then scale it accordingly to, if you have dry skin, then you want a little bit more. If you have oily skin, you maybe want a little bit less. But this one's a nice one. I've talked about this before. You guys have seen it. It's part of my regular skincare. This is by SoulCeuticals. This is their Day Glow Serum that also has vitamin C. I'll link it down below if you are interested. And we're gonna start with some concealer. So that serum has been sitting for about 10 to 15 minutes before I started filming, and we are ready to go right into our e.l.f. concealer. This was our winner in our Friday face-off a couple weeks ago, which I'll link right up here. It's a great concealer. This is their hydrating concealer. They also have a camo concealer that lasts for 16 hours for those of you that have more oily skin. This is pretty hydrating, which is one of the reasons that I love it. So I'm just gonna start with a few drops. Now I like to use concealer maybe the old-fashioned way. I know many people now like to put their concealer just right up through here and right there, and it always seems to change. I don't like my concealer to look trendy. I like my concealer to cover what I need it to cover. That looks to be a good amount on both sides. And I like to apply my concealer with my finger. I really feel like the warmth from my skin allows me to press that concealer deep into any wrinkles, all the wrinkles, every wrinkle, and move it around so that I get the coverage that I want without it looking too thick or too cakey anywhere. Now the key to adding a powder over your concealer is to be sure that you've really pressed that concealer out and into the crevices and wrinkles, but also out of them so they haven't settled. Because however you set your concealer or anything with powder, that's sort of the lock and load, if you will. It is the hairspray of your under eyes. So you really want to make sure that you've got the look the way you want it. You've got your concealer pressed out of those wrinkles so that it hasn't settled, and then you are good to go. I'm just gonna press in this one real fast. Had to move my mirror because it needed to be plugged in. So I'm just gonna do it a little bit crazy today. All right, I think both of those are covered nicely. Now I wanted to use a price point drugstore concealer because I didn't want to try either of these powders on top of a more expensive concealer because A, those don't always work best, and B, it doesn't do any good to share with you a good quality drugstore powder if that's the one that wins, that comes out, if that's the one that tests better, if I've done it over a more expensive type concealer, because then it maybe sends a mixed message that you've got to have that kind of a concealer to work with these powders. And I wanted to make sure that these powders from concealer to powder can work interchangeably pretty flawlessly and really melt into the skin. If you wear concealer, you absolutely want to wear a powder, even if you have dry skin, because the powder is what sets and holds that concealer in place. It also helps keep your eyelashes or your mascara from transferring the darker color of your mascara underneath your eyes. And if you wear glasses, that's really, really important. So now that we've got both of those concealers set in place exactly where I want them, we're gonna apply the powder just like it says in the instructions so that we don't get anything wrong. For the Laura Mercier, it says using the camouflage powder brush. Okay, that part we're not gonna do exactly how they say because it's sold separately and we don't need to buy a certain brush on top of a $33 concealer. And it is sold separately. Pat over makeup, okay? We can do that. I'm just gonna put a little bit in the lid and I'm gonna use a, yep, that happened. Well, now that the lid fell and all the powder fell off the lid, we're gonna go back in and put more on the lid. I'm just gonna apply it with a medium tapered brush. I love tapered brushes for applying powder under the eyes because of the way it just sits so nicely underneath the eye and really contours to that area that I want to powder. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on the brush like it says, tap it off, and then it says try not to drag the brush over the skin. Because this powder contains white pigment, don't use it on the entire face. Keep the areas to be lightened and brightened around the eye. So you guys can see this eye versus this eye, and I have not applied the powder, but this claims to brighten under the eye, diminish the signs of visible fine lines. Microized pigments won't settle into fine lines, accentuate shadows even in the eye area, and instantly brightens the look of under eye area and dark circles. So we're gonna do this so that you guys can see if it seems to, we're just patting it in like it says, if it seems to have instantly, I'm gonna brush off the excess and then just go in and kind of flick it. So does it look brighter than this side? I don't know that I can see that, but it does look a little bit more soft, I would say. All right, we're gonna go over to the RCMA. Same thing, I'm just gonna take it out of the lid, make sure I've got all that other Laura powder out of here. And this says to use powder puff or makeup brush and apply to the face, let set, and then brush off excess. So just gonna get a little bit on there. I'm excited to see how these two hold up because I interchangeably use them. I just grab whichever one. I don't know that I've really thought about, gosh, which one works best. They both have good reviews, as I said, almost equal in their reviews. I like that the RCMA is cruelty-free. I like how much more you get in it, and I like that it lasts a lot longer. I don't know how I feel about having just two simple ingredients, but less is more sometimes, right? So I'm gonna let that sit for just a second and then we will go on about our day and see how these look. So I feel like that's kind of set. I'm just gonna brush that excess off. Now you can take a look and see how the two eyes look comparatively. Does one look lighter? Does one look brighter? I feel like the RCMA side looks a little bit more matte, but still bright, where the Laura Mercier side, it seems like it's lightened it and brightened it, but I feel like it looks a little, not oily, but maybe more shiny than I would like for something that has a powder on it. But we are gonna leave it as is. We've applied it the way they said. We've got equal amounts of concealer and powder on both sides, and we're gonna go throughout the day, and I'll check in with you guys. Neither one of these ironically say that they last a long time. They don't say long wear. They don't give any hour how long they last. So I don't really know what to hold them to, but I know for me, if I have a powder, especially $33, it needs to get me through the majority of my workday. So after about 8 hours, if it starts to break down, okay, but I don't want it to break down at 4 or 5 hours. And if it does, I need to know that so that I know that I need to start carrying this around in a handbag. So those are all things we're gonna find out throughout the course of this video.
So it's been about 4 hours and I thought I would do a check-in since I'm in the car and it seems to have some pretty good natural lighting. I've been kind of running errands, so in and out, but not in a real strenuous situation. I haven't been sweaty at all. It's not nearly that hot here. It is still rather cold actually. But on the Laura Mercier side, it looks like it's holding up nice. I don't see a whole lot of creasing, so not only is the powder holding up, but so is that concealer that's underneath it. And it has a little bit of a dewy finish, I would say. Now, under my eyes, I am typically normal, whatever that means. I'm not really oily and I'm not extremely dry. So sort of that, yeah, normal skin, I guess. So with that nice serum underneath it, I think it just melts really well with the concealer and the powder. On the RCMA side, same thing applies. I still feel like this is a little bit more of a matte finish, which I'm fine with. I don't want this area to be really light and bright anyway. I can put concealer through here and up here if I want to highlight that area. But I feel like this one's holding up just fine as well. No real creasing on either side. I just think this one looks better. I mean, what do you guys think? You can see it just as well as I can. I just feel like that RCMA one overall looks better. But we'll take a look at it again in a couple more hours back in the studio where there's that really good bright light that allows us to see everything.
All right, we are at the 7.5 hour mark, and I think both of these are holding up pretty well. We're gonna do a deep dive and really get close so that you guys can see how the two held up throughout the course of the day. But before we did, I just wanted to give a little bit more information because the RCMA side is only talc and silica, and the Laura Mercier side is talc, silica, and then a lot of other ingredients, many are fillers. I wanted to do more research to really understand how safe or not is talc powder in cosmetics. Many of us have heard of the Johnson & Johnson case where there was asbestos in their talc powder that led to the cause of ovarian cancer, and then obviously a huge lawsuit. So I don't want to give you half of a story and say this is a great cosmetic without providing you the other half of the story so that you're best informed to make whatever decision you think is best for you. Now, when I did some research to try to figure out, does the RCMA powder have talc ingredients in it, and does that talc contain asbestos? What I found, this is from a website called Inside Coder, which I love to use. It's spelled INCIDECODER, inside with a C, Coder. And it says talc powder is the major component of most powder makeup products. Think face powders, eyeshadows, and blushers. They usually contain up to 70%. Its two winning properties that make it very suitable for this role is the outstanding spreadability for a smooth application and its low covering power, aka translucent, to avoid clown-like effects. Sometimes it doesn't really help me avoid clown-looking makeup, but that's for another tutorial. Chemically speaking, it is a clay mineral, hydrated magnesium silicate that is mined in several countries. The drawback of mined minerals is potential impurities, and the version used in cosmetics has to be white, not a gray like cheaper grades, free from asbestos, sterilized, and have thin plates for maximum slip. So that's what I found in terms of the talc powder that is used in cosmetics, is that it has to be white and free from asbestos, sterilized, and have thin plates for maximum slip. Silica was the second ingredient in the Laura Mercier and the only other ingredient in the RCMA. So I wanted to understand it a little bit more as well. Again, just giving you the information. And it is a white powdery substance that's the major component of glass and sand. In cosmetics, it's often in products that are proposed to keep your skin matte, as it has great oil absorbing properties. It's also used for a helper ingredient to thicken up products or suspend insoluble particles. Another article by drugwatch.com says asbestos-contained talc in makeup. Talc and asbestos are naturally occurring minerals that can form near one another beneath the Earth's surface. This heightens the risk of asbestos-contaminated talc finding its way into makeup products. Asbestos, although highly toxic, was used for decades in industries such as construction, firefighting, shipbuilding, and more because of its heat resistance. It was also used in many household products. In 2018, a study by the U.S. Public Interest Research Group reported high levels of asbestos in 3 types of makeup sold by Claire's. The retailer has since declared bankruptcy. That same year, Justice, a retail clothing store owned by Ascena Retail Group, recalled 8 Just Shine makeup products that contained the toxic fibrosis mineral. Long-term exposure to asbestos increases the risk of cancers, particularly mesothelioma. Exposure to asbestos also raised the risk of ovarian cancer. So what I'm understanding this to mean is that there can be asbestos in talc. However, talc in cosmetics needs to be sterilized and free from asbestos. I don't know what kind of process that is. It would certainly be something to learn more about. I hope that gives you additional framework to make the best decision, whether it comes to blushes, eyeshadows, powders, bronzers, any type of a powder in the cosmetic space that might contain talc. It does appear as though it needs to be sterilized and clean and free of asbestos. So if you decide to use powders, let's take a look at how these 2 powders have performed. This side, the Laura Mercier side, they're both still holding up really nicely. And I don't know that by looking at it at this stage of the game, I can say one has outperformed so much better than the other. I think both have performed equally well. Both powders have performed better than my eyeliner and my mascara, I can tell you that. And it looks like they've done a nice job still covering the area. I don't feel like this is all oily. I don't feel like there's a bunch of slippage of the concealer. I feel like the concealer has held up really nicely for a $9 concealer and $14 or $33 powder on top of it. I'm really pleased with how this under eye area is looking at this stage of the day. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. Would I have liked more coverage? Yes. And I probably could have applied more powder to both sides. I just wanted to go light-handed and follow the instructions. When I wear either of these 2 powders, again, I will definitely use more powder and then press it in and then dust off sort of what's extra. I think that might be a better application that would give me more solid wear and really lock in that concealer. And look, let's be fair, this is a 52-year-old face that does have wrinkles. I don't expect any product, whether it's a concealer or a powder, to make me look like I did in my 30s. So that aside, I think for the price point of either of these and that concealer, I think this is a nice combination that anybody would be happy with. Again, if you have oily skin, I just wouldn't put an emollient serum underneath. I would hydrate, but not too much of a serum, more of a moisturizing cream. And if you have dry skin, let that moisturizing cream or that serum really absorb before you put on your concealer and then your powder. And I think you'd be good to go. So can I declare a winner in these? I would have to say, because I feel like they performed fairly equal, I have to go to the RCMA. A, it's cruelty-free. B, the price point is way better. And C, you get a lot more. So you're not paying for the name, you're not paying for fancy packaging, you're paying for a big bottle that looks like one of your spices or your parsley that's up in your cupboard. But I'm okay with that. I don't need it to be fancy, I just need it to work. So there you go, you guys. That wraps up this week's Friday Face Off. You know what's great about this is if you partner this Friday Face Off with that concealer Friday Face Off, you've really got yourself 2 good products that cover this under eye area really nicely for a price that many of us can live with. So thanks so much for watching. Like this video if you like it, of course, and share it with any of your friends. And if you didn't subscribe at the beginning of this video, hopefully I have won you over and you're gonna subscribe now. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week with another Friday Face Off.